I, hey, let's talk Hyper-V, shall we? But only the fun bits. I'm Thomas Maurer. I'm here with Ben Armstrong, who is here to basically talk with me about the things I just mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be here.
Absolutely, great to having you here. So you have been working with Hyper-V for a long, long time. As far as I basically know Hyper-V.
Yeah, I've been working on Hyper-V since there was a Hyper-V, and a bit before then, too.
Yeah, so you're also known as Mr. Hyper-V. And it's great to have you here, because there are a lot of things I want to ask you. And one of the things is really, since you have been working so long at Hyper-V, what are the things you really didn't think of when you start working on Hyper-V and you get to work on these days on that product?
Yeah, and this is one of the things that I love about working on Hyper-V is we're always doing stuff which, just a couple of years ago, I would have thought that was impossible or that was crazy. So I have a roadmap session here this week where I'm going over what we've been doing and where we're going. And some things we just recently launched in Azure the MV2 series virtual machines. These are the world's largest virtual machines that you can get in a public cloud environment. And their size is insane. 416 virtual processors and 12 terabytes of memory.
Holy crap.
I mean, when we first launched Hyper-V just over 10 years ago, we could barely do 4 virtual processors.
Yeah.
So being here today and having those sorts of scale figures is just unbelievable.
Yeah. No, I remember that when we had to do some tricks and we couldn't limit the virtual machines.
Yeah.
We always had to say, how big can we go? How far can we go with that? But there's also other things which are really excites me. The one scale is obviously used by products like SAP, which really can leverage those.
Yeah, and it's actually really interesting because when I go out and I talk to people about these massive scale virtual machines, a lot of them are like, have you seen how much you guys charge for that? Isn't that kind of crazy? But it's really interesting talking to the customers who want this, because what we actually see is we have customers who are running these high-end SAP and SQL workloads, where for 95% of the year, they just need a big VM. But for 2 weeks of the year, they need a massive VM.
Yeah.
And if they're trying to do this themselves, they would have to pay for the hardware to handle those 2 weeks all year round and not utilize it.
Yeah.
But now in Azure, they can run at a big size for 95% of the year, and then when 2 weeks come, shut down, resize, bring it up, and crank through the workload.
Yeah, that's the power of the cloud right there. Another thing which excites me a lot about the Azure VMs, and I know you since the Hyper-V team is working heavily with the Azure team to basically, because it's the foundation of all our Azure hosts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is GPU and graphics.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited here. We currently have the NV4 offering in preview, and I'm actually going to be doing a sneak peek demo of it tomorrow. And this is brand new technology that we have, which is GPU partitioning, where today when you think about graphics virtualization, you're either doing some sort of emulated or synthetic graphics, or you direct pass through a single GPU. With GPU partitioning, we can take a single card and, in hardware, carve it up into multiple instances, pass those through so that we can have a single card serving lots of virtual machines, but all of those virtual machines see the real chipset that they're running on and have full access and full capability.
Oh,
so it's the best of all worlds.
Yeah. So are we going to use that more or less for VDI scenarios or for AI, or where are you seeing this?
Well, for all of that. The biggest demand we see is around people who are doing GPU compute, so stuff like AI, and there's a whole field of computer science right now that's using GPUs more and more. But we also see a lot of demand on this for VDI, and I know what you're thinking. No, it's not people playing games, but what it is it's people who are architects using CAD. We see people who are financial traders, and they have massive visualizations of what they're working on, and a lot of these high-end professional workers who need that graphics capability.
Yeah, so that fits perfectly in our Windows virtual desktop story we have.
Yes, absolutely.
So the next thing, which we talked about CPU and memory and these massive virtual machines and GPUs, next up is definitely storage.
Absolutely, and we've been doing a lot of investments there too. Recently we launched the LV2 offering, and this actually uses some new technology that the Hyper-V team had worked on, which we call NVMe Direct, where for a lot of our customers today, they know about discrete device assignment. They can take an NVMe device and they can pass it through to a virtual machine. NVMe Direct builds on top of that and does so in a way where we get near native performance off of that device. So we're now offering virtual machines in Azure where you can have a single virtual machine with up to 3.6 million IOPS just coming from that single virtual machine.
Oh, wow. I know a lot of people who just want to demo that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's great. So we talked a lot about like Azure right now, and obviously that's great. We see a lot of innovation there, but for us, it's not something, it's where we deploy virtual machine and we just consume them, right?
Yep.
We can't really see Hyper-V there. But where we also have a lot of Hyper-V and where we also sometimes don't see it is on the client side, right?
Yeah.
So on my Windows 10 machine.
You're probably running a virtual machine right now and you don't know it, is the short answer. It's actually it's a great time to be working on Hyper-V because literally everything that Microsoft is building right now runs on top of Hyper-V in some way or another. Yeah. You know, I chat to people about this. We've got Azure, we've got Azure Stack Hub, Azure Stack Edge, Azure Stack HCI. Obviously, that's all Hyper-V, but also, you know, Bing, Office 365, all of our online services. And then on the client, we've been building so many technology that's just quietly under the cover using the power of a hypervisor, using the power of virtualization. You know, so first we have a lot of core security technologies that we've been working on. Things like virtualization-based security, device guard, credential guard. And actually one of the announcements that we've just recently had, which I'm really excited about, is the whole launch of the Secure Core PC.
Yeah.
You know, and these are devices where we've been working with the OEMs so that we can roll them out with all of our security functionality turned on by default and give enterprises like the ultimate offering where it's like you buy this, you give it to your company, and you know that you are trusted and secure and protected.
Yeah.
But beyond that, we also have some really great features. We have Windows Defender Application Guard. Yeah. And you don't realize there's a VM there, but there is. You open a web browser, you go to a website that your enterprise has said like, I'm not sure if we trust that. Seamlessly, we fire up a VM in the background, we start up an instance of Edge in there, you get connected to it. All the user feels is, oh, I just got thrown over to a different window. Yeah. But it's a virtual machine.
So if I'm going to a website, which I'm not really sure if something happened to the website, I just basically take a Windows Application Guard browser window.
Yep. And you can use this as a consumer. I use it all the time. It's awesome. You enable Windows Defender Application Guard, and we all have those moments where you're browsing the web and you see a link and you're like, maybe not. If you've enabled Defender Application Guard, you just go up, open up the menu, and right next to where you see in private browsing, there's like open an Application Guard window. And about 2 seconds later, you'll have a new instance of Edge, but it's actually running in a disposable virtual machine that if anything goes wrong, you close it and it is gone.
Yeah, so it's super fast, but I still get the whole isolation and security Hyper-V gives me. Okay.
And I will say, speaking of super fast, one of the other ones that we've worked on, which I love, is the update to the Windows subsystem for Linux.
Yeah.
This has been an amazing project to be involved in. We did the first release of the Windows subsystem for Linux, which did not use virtualization. People loved it.
Yep.
However, we had people coming back and saying, like, this is great, but we really want it to be even closer to Linux.
Yep.
And so we took that feedback and did a number of amazing things. The first thing that we did, which was unbelievable, is we said, OK, we, Microsoft, will go build our own Linux kernel and ship it. Can't get much closer than that.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing right there. But the second thing that we did was we then worked to build a virtual machine solution where we can start up this Linux virtual machine and get you to a bash prompt in under a second.
All right.
In fact, usually in under 500 milliseconds. And that's insane.
Yeah.
If you've tried out WSL2, from the end user point of view, you sit down, you sit at command prompt, you type in bash, and you just go, oh, I'm in my Linux environment. What you don't realize is that what we just did on the back end was start a new virtual machine, load up Linux, boot through the kernel, get to user mode, start up bash, and get you there. All so fast that you didn't even notice it.
Yeah, no, I'm using it since it came out in preview, and it's like insane how fast that thing starts.
Yeah.
It's like, when you think about it, you get like in the back end, really, you start a virtual machine, it's insane how fast it is.
And that is one of the many examples that I point to, where it's like, if you could travel back in time 5 years and say, hey, Ben, do you think that Hyper-V could ever do this? I would have been like, no. And yet here we are today, and it's just amazing to see.
Yeah. So something else we also have is where we also use virtualization technology, which is also about being fast, being really, really fast, is Sandbox.
Yes. Sandbox is super fun. This is a new tech that we just launched. It was part of 1903. And it builds on a lot of the stuff that we built for Windows Defender Application Guard. But instead of giving you like a nice browser instance, it gives you a full instance of Windows that you can try out an application, you can experiment with. And I could go on for days about it. It's got some amazing technology. One of the really fun things is you don't have to, like a traditional virtual machine, you don't install a second copy of Windows. And you don't have all the space of a second copy of Windows around. What we actually do is we go, wait a second, we're running on Windows. We have all the files that we need in order to do Windows. And we create a virtual file system where all the host files are read-only, so you can't mess with it, but we bring up a second version of Windows without taking time to install, without using up space, and it's just then. And just like a Defender Application Guard, you can play with it, and you can throw it away, and it's fully disposable.
Oh, yeah. No, I like that. Especially, again, you can try something out. You can try, what is that installation file actually doing? Right?
Yep.
And we got some interesting question from our friends in Switzerland, by the way. Nuix Tech just asked us a question about how would also this GPU feature we're working on, how would that work, for example, in WSL or Windows Sandbox? Is that something you're looking at? Because I have a lot of requests on like using the GPU also. Yeah,
so it absolutely is something that we're working on. So when we talk about GPU virtualization, we actually already do GPU acceleration in Sandbox. We don't have it in WSL yet. It is something that is high on our list to look at. One of the challenges we have is we do have to use a different technology for our desktop offerings, because last time I checked, you don't have a high-end server graphics card in your laptop.
Yeah.
And I haven't been able to convince any of the laptop manufacturers to do that. So when we think about graphics virtualization for the desktop, we're trying to figure out how to do that with commercial desktop graphics, even with like integrated graphics that you get from like Intel and so on. So it's definitely something on the list, and for that I can just say stay tuned.
Okay. So I hope this answers the question. This was really an amazing one. Another thing I really want to talk about is you have been at VMworld this year.
Absolutely, and this is right up there with things that I never thought would have happened. So this year I was on stage at VMworld. And the background here is, I've mentioned all these technologies that we've been building for client. We have the security technologies, we have VBS, we have Sandbox, we have Defender Application Guard, we have WSL2. We also have all the work that we've done around Docker containers. Well, all of these things need Hyper-V to be enabled. And both Microsoft and VMware, we're hearing from our customers that like, hey, I want to use all this cool technology from Microsoft, but I also want to use VMware Workstation.
Yep.
And so a little while ago, we actually started a engineering collaboration where we started trying to figure out how can we get VMware Workstation running on top of the Hyper-V hypervisor. Right. It's cats and dogs, man. Yeah. But it's been amazing working with them. And VMworld this year, they came out, they announced that they'd been doing this work. They invited me down to get up on stage. You've never seen such a confused audience than when they went, and now Ben Armstrong from Microsoft is coming onto the stage. But they did a public demo of it, and they're hoping to have a beta out early next year. So I'm super excited about that.
when you look at the things, we're shipping a Linux kernel, we have VMware, we are on stage with VMware. So it's like really crazy what's going on.
It is a very exciting time to be working in virtualization and on the Hyper-V team.
Okay. So if we have now people who actually want to get started with Hyper-V and they want to learn a little bit more also about the cool things we do, where should they go? So
the best place to go to is docs.microsoft.com/virtualization. That's the home for everything we publish. It also links to our GitHub account for the team where we have a bunch of samples, we put up presentations and so on, but that is the best place to get started.
Okay, so go to Docs and learn what's up there.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so with that, I really want to thank you for being here. We had some super interesting insights in what's going on with Hyper-V, how it is to work on Hyper-V, and where we have Hyper-V, where we can't even really see it or know it.
Yeah, no, and there's just more coming in the future. So it's super exciting.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
So next up, we have a quick field piece by our community reporter, Amy Ritt, who is over at the Landmark.